Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Disney Classics podcast, and this is a show where we love to talk about the Disney canon and Disney films. It's so much fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Stanford's here.
Hey Rachel, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you. Really stoked to talk about our topic today.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we, of course, did individual episodes on the Disney canon films, but there were a couple that we kind of, for whatever reason, we grouped together. It just seemed to make the most sense at the time. We grouped the Latin America films and we grouped the ones we're talking about today. The ones we're talking about today, and a couple others. We did. What's the one that we did with Brother Bear? I can't even remember
It
because we.
was Tarzan, if I'm not
Oh yeah,
mistaken,
you're right. We
because
did
it was the
Tarzan and
Phil
Brother Bear.
Collins
Right.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's just how we decided to do it at the time. And now we're on what are we on now? Like episode 80 or something, 80 something.
Yeah.
That we have some breathing room. And we're so excited because this revival theater in American Fork has opened, and let's see. So we're on episode 88. That's what this
Okay.
is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the 80s somewhere, but okay.
Yeah, 88. That's amazing. Oh
Wow,
my
Rachel,
gosh. I
that's
can't believe
amazing.
it's there.
I can't either. So great.
Yeah. But anyway, so there's this theater called the Maven Cinemas in American Fork. It just opened in October, so they're pretty new. And they took this little theater that was Sticky Shoes Theater to a two-screen theater, and they renovated it. And they are open it to revival films, and in particular, they do show some newer things like that Godzilla -1 recently, things like that. But their main thrust is showing these older films, and the lineups that they have. I mean, I could just live there. I could just bunker down.
Oh, I could go there. I know, like 4 nights a week,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
really could.
It's they do the best job with the programming. I've been so
Hmm.
impressed.
Yeah, and it's everything from Jackie Chan, martial arts movies to silent films to anime to everything
To
in
Jack,
between.
they've been showing like they showed the Seven Samurai. They're
Hmm.
like going classics. Calamity Jane with Doris Day is playing
Yes,
this week.
I'm so excited for
And
that.
are you go? I couldn't work it out my schedule. I was so bummed, but
Yeah, I'm gonna
still,
try to see it on this
yeah.
the day after I get back from my trip
Okay,
on the
excellent.
6th. But let's talk about some of the ones that we've seen there. So I have had the chance. I saw last year. I saw Christmas in Connecticut, and that was really fun because not only do I love that film, but I saw it the same day that I saw the Christmas in Connecticut
Oh
play
yeah,
at Pioneer
how
Theater
fun!
Company.
Yes.
So that was fun. And then I saw Muppet Christmas Carol, and that was obviously a blast. I love that movie. And the only thing is they had advertised it as a sing along and they didn't have the words.
Oh,
So I
boo.
kind of wish that it had the words because
Yeah.
I had to have my phone out to have the words.
Have the words.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So if they are listening, that's the only feedback I would give. But that was obviously wonderful. And it's not only do they have these revival films, they have revival trailers too, which is so fun.
I know. That's
I
so
love
much
that.
fun to see
Yeah.
those old school trailers
Yeah.
for movies that are
Hmm.
coming to the theater.
And then I saw the Phantom of the Opera on New Year's night, and that was really fun. It's not like the best movie in the world, but it has like a fun spectacle, I think, for New Year's. And
Oh, it's a
everybody
great New Year's
had,
movie. Yeah.
yeah, everybody dressed up. I had on my fancy dress. We had masquerades, masks, and then we all together rang in the New Year.
And
And I,
it was the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, right?
yes,
That's the one with
yes,
Gerard
yeah.
Butler and Emmy Rossum. Yeah.
Yeah, they had Labyrinth playing on one screen and they had Phantom of the
Oh,
Opera on
nice.
the
I
other.
forgot about the labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yeah, how
So I
fun.
picked Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was
fun.
it was just fun. I was really worried that nobody would come because Sunday it was Sunday night, New Year's Eve this year, and I thought, oh, Utah County, is anybody going to come? But so I went, and there was a nice little crowd there, so I was happy about that, and nice to have somebody to ring in the new year with, and
In a fun way.
yeah, yeah, so that was great. And then I saw How to Train Your Dragon, which is so good, holds up totally.
Well, to see it
Um,
on the big screen, what a treat.
yes, and then we saw Beauty and the Beast together.
Yes, yes.
And I will always take it. Even though I just saw it in August, I will always take a
Oh
chance to see
yeah,
Beauty and the
same.
Beast.
I'd seen it in August, and I'd see it, tonight
Yeah.
if I had the option. I mean, I just could go
Yeah.
anytime. Yeah.
And then I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was a great experience to see
Had
on
you
the big
seen that on the
screen.
big screen
No,
before?
I never have. Never
Okay.
have.
I saw
Mm-mm.
it at the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival one year on the big screen,
Mm.
or no, there was some kind of re-release. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it's a cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really, I mean, you really feel the immersion and how
Yeah,
well the visual effects hold up is it's very impressive.
yeah.
So that was cool. And then I saw The General, which is an
Buster
incredible,
Keaton?
yes, Buster Keaton, and that is an incredible film. I mean, the stunts are just
Oh,
still
they're unbelievable. I bet that was so cool to see that on the
unbelievable
big
to
screen
see.
too.
Yeah, some of the best ever, if not the best ever. I mean, it's so impressive what he does with those trains.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then again to see and digital prints
Mm-hmm.
that they showed me.
Mm-hmm.
So the area, it just looks and sounds
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. I think they
Mm-hmm.
put it in a very nice sound
Yeah,
system.
they did.
I've been
They
in
really
each
did.
auditorium, and
Mm-hmm.
I think they're both equally great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw The Rescuers, which is what we're talking about
That's what we're
today.
talking
Yeah.
about. So you've seen a lot more things than I've seen there. But my inaugural experience was on a Saturday where they showed all three of the original Star Wars
Oh
trilogy
my
films,
gosh.
and heaven, it was like movie heaven. I was so
Oh,
happy.
hmm.
It was so much fun,
Yeah,
and they had a pretty good crowd. I mean,
that's good.
it kind of varied show to show, but still, I was impressed with the turnout.
That's good.
Yeah. And
I
then Beauty
I've
and the
been trying to
Beast.
go. I've been trying to go every week. That's my goal. I
Yeah,
really want to support
that's a
them and
good
what they're
goal. I really
doing.
want to support them too.
Hmm.
Always try to buy some refreshments. It's
Yes,
always
me too.
and thank them profusely because they're working. It's a husband and
Yeah,
wife team, and they couldn't be nicer. Um, and then saw Beauty and the Beast, and then of course the Rescuers.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm going this weekend too, Rach.
oh,
I'm going to
well,
see. That's what I'm seeing the Aristocats,
oh, fun.
and then also they're doing Hairspray sing along. But
Oh,
now I'm worried if they're not going to have the words. But
yeah. You should
I'll
message
just,
them and say, "Hey, Rachel, they elbowed me. They didn't have the
yeah,
words."
it's like please, because I believe that there is a print of Hairspray that
Yeah,
has the words on it. If
yeah.
I'm not, I don't think I've ever seen it, but I thought I remember that
Hmm.
being
Yeah, if they're going to
there.
advertise this singing, then you really need to have the
You
words.
do, you
You really
do,
do.
yeah.
So, but yeah, the rescuers, it's really interesting because obviously we've talked about this a lot on this show because it's a favorite of yours and not a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
Uh,
And in fact, I thought you were such a good sport to even be willing to go, Rachel. Good to see it again.
well, I will go and see almost any Disney film on the big screen if I get the chance,
Yeah.
even one that I don't care for as much. I don't know. I just like to I'd like to see all of them on the big screen if I could. And I
Mhm.
had, in fairness, I had seen it in when I was a little girl, which is part of the reason why I didn't like it. I saw it in the re-release in '89,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
I just thought it was really scary at the time, and I thought Medusa was very scary, and what they did to Penny and making her go in that cave was very scary. And I didn't like it in 1989. And it's hard when you have kind of those experiences as a little child, like it's hard to kind of not keep that, through. There's the same thing with Return to Oz. Like I don't think I'll ever like love that movie because it was so
Yeah.
scary to me as a kid,
Yeah.
you know. But I have to say, so I when I went into watch this, I was really trying to like look at it from Stanford's perspective and see what you see. And I did appreciate it more seeing it on the big screen. And I kind of was joking that I think this is my Star Wars prequels moment, because there's a lot of people now after seeing the Star Wars sequels that they're like, oh, the Star Wars prequels aren't that bad, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I'm not one of those people when it comes to prequels, but I think this is kind of a somewhat similar experience because having just seen Wish
Yeah.
and being so underwhelmed by that, and Strange World not too far behind, and so many of the other offerings from Disney this last year. I I mean, I would be over the moon if they had put out a Rescuers last year. Like if it was the
Yeah.
exact same
Yeah.
movie and that was the release, I just watching it, I'm like, there is no world that this movie is worse than Wish. Like no world. There is no world where this movie is worse than
Yeah.
Strange World. I will fight anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in comparison, you do kind of see, because there's heart in this, there's emotion, there's excitement, there's good things happening. Yeah. Whereas those other films, so many of the other films feel so corporate, feel so bland, feel so committee. And so I do think I appreciate it. Still wouldn't be high. Wouldn't be high on my list, but it still
Wouldn't
would
crack your
be.
top 25.
No, it would definitely not, but it would certainly be higher than Wish. I can tell you that for sure. We really ought to do. Maybe that's what we should do for when we get up to the 100th episode. We should do another ranking
Yeah, that would be
because
really
we're
great
we're
to do
so
another
close.
ranking. Yeah.
But when I do the new ranking, I do think that I think the Rescues will be higher, and I do think I will have a Hunchback higher. I think just the ambition alone, uh, even though there are parts of it that I don't really enjoy, and I kind of have a bad memory tied to it as well, from when I first watched it.
Hmm.
In retrospect, it's just better than most of what they have been putting out
It's
lately.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, no question about
Yeah,
that. Uh,
it's
and
up. It's got a boost.
it's ambitious, and the music's great for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yep.
And yeah, yeah,
So preview there.
yeah.
Rating episode. But what was it like for you to see it on the
Oh,
big screen again?
it's just the most nostalgic, wonderful thing. Because this is a movie that I love very much, and uh, I hadn't seen it on the big screen. I probably went to that 89 re-release, when you
Mhm.
saw when you saw it for the first time. But you know, I mean, I'm an old man. I saw that movie as a child in 1977,
Mhm.
and that was a cool summer because that was the summer that the original Star Wars came out too, and my parents took me to that and
Mm.
the Rescuers. So, and I was a Disney fan from very early on. I mean, my wonderful parents fed me on a very steady diet of Disney uh, uh, movies and music and books and Disneyland, and all this stuff.
Mhm.
So anyway, uh, seeing this movie, it made a very positive impact, for me. So
Mhm.
just so the nostalgia of it, but I also think it's a very good film. So
Yeah.
I love being able just to see the wonderful animation, on the big screen, and again, kudos to Maven Cinemas because uh, both the projection and sound are very good, I think, in their
Yeah.
theater, and so it was just a wonderful experience. I loved it.
Did you see it in 1983 when it had Mickey's Christmas Carol attached to it?
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Which, yeah, cool to see, Mickey's Christmas Carol too back in the
Mm-hmm.
day. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it was
I
also
love
kind of
that.
fun. And I mean, this is somewhat unrelated, Rach, but in 1990, when The Rescuers Down Under, was in theaters,
Yeah. Well,
The
that's
Prince
why
and the
they
Pauper
isn't
was
that why they
incredible.
re-released it in 1989 was a
I
precursor
believe
to the.
so. Yeah, as a precursor to the sequel coming out, as well
Mm-hmm.
as I thought it was fun that they put a Mickey Mouse short
Yeah.
in front of The
Oh,
Rescuers
that's
Down Under
true.
too. But anyway, I
Mm-hmm.
digress.
That is true. That might have been fun if they had thought of that, of
Yeah,
putting it
yeah,
before, but I guess
exactly.
it'd be kind of post Christmas. But
Right.
but are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. And that is one thing I miss about the re-releases. I mean, they do like they just did Nightmare Before Christmas and so they do have sometimes those re-releases, but they
And
used to
that
just
film,
do
that
them
Disney 100
regularly.
Film Festival last summer
That
was
was fun.
really fun. I thought I
Yeah,
loved
it
it.
was.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it was very interesting. I opened up the Wikipedia to prepare for this, and this is a very high quality Wikipedia article on this movie. And I don't remember what we
agreed.
covered in the original episode, but since we did both,
None of this.
I can't imagine that we went too deep into it.
No, I don't think we talked a lot about this, and I think we were both just kind of disagreeing about the movie more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's true. In my notes, I have more about that than I do about the nuts and bolts of the plot, which is probably what we talked about last time more. But it's very fascinating. So it's based on this book, a series of books
Hmm.
that they had
Have you
by
ever read
Mark.
any of those books?
I never have.
I haven't
Margaret
either. And in fact,
Margaret Sharp is
yeah,
the name of the author.
and I believe she's British, if I'm not mistaken. I
Hmm.
could be wrong, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think she's a British writer.
And so they start out the first treatment that they have is that it is about a Norwegian poet who's imprisoned. I guess it's based on the first book, and that they had, and then it got changed to a treatment about the location got changed to Cuba, and it's Bernard and Bianca rescuing Richard. Then they have Bernard and Bianca rescuing Richard the Lionheart in the Middle Ages, another treatment, which is wild.
Which is
And
so, yeah,
and I guess the thing got shelved because since it was about this imprisoned poet, and
it's
particularly Cuba, if you think about the
political.
1960s, I mean, holy cow.
Yeah.
And so Disney shelved it, Walt Disney himself, and he disliked the political overtones of it,
Yeah, I
according to
had
the,
no idea about
yeah,
any of that stuff.
it's
That was
so, it
fascinating.
was.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is that for my blind spot series, I just watched JFK for the first time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a great movie.
It's a terrific film. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and I did an episode. We're starting. My friend Monda and I we're starting a new little series that we're doing each month where we're going to do the blind spots together and we're going to talk
Oh,
about them.
fun.
So I'm really excited about it. So we
Oh,
recorded
that'll
it,
be great.
and it's such a compelling movie. Like I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
they're like what
it's so well done. I
builds the
was,
case like so well.
yeah. Yeah, one of
And
my favorite Oliver Stone movies for sure.
yeah, definitely the best I've ever seen, and way better than his other political movies that I've
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah.
But But it just was interesting to think about why, because when we hear that, oh, he dismissed it for political things, you think, oh, somebody being woke or whatever, and that's not the case when you think about that movie and you think about how tense things. I mean, people thought we really were going to be invaded by Cuba. I mean, they
Yeah,
were close to getting invaded by Cuba. There
yeah.
was a constant scare that we were going to get attacked by Russia. Um, all of that. So it makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
It
Yeah.
makes sense why you wouldn't want to have. I mean, and also if you think about the fact that World War II was just in people's rearview mirror. I mean, it really had to only been
Yeah.
less than 2 decades.
Well,
So
and I appreciate too, and not trying to like put in, thoughts into what we think, how, Walt Disney operated or whatever, but uh it, you look at these Disney films and they're not political,
right.
from these early
Yeah.
films, and um that I think it
Yeah, they're not
is what
like
makes them so classic and also so kind of just
yeah.
so family friendly, just kind of so universal in
Yeah,
their appeal.
you can take like a really sort of thin definition of political. I've heard people make that argument that every movie is political because it's about certainly you have in Disney movies you have kingdoms and you have betrayals and you have marriages and relations, like you have things that have politics involved because everything in a certain degree is, if you use a thin definition, is political. But as far as being the outright like saving a political prisoner from
Yeah.
Cuba,
Like
that's
from
like
yeah.
a different level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so what's interesting too about this is that it got re-merged as a project for young animators.
Yeah, in the early 1970s, which
Yeah.
and led by Don Bluth,
Mm-hmm.
which,
And
back as we talked about back in the
mm-hmm.
day, there he was at Disney.
Have you read his? Did you get to read his book yet?
No, I haven't
Yeah.
read it yet. Making a note to myself, like read Don Bluth's book.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's a little cheesy, I have to say. He has this conceit of like talking to this man in the mirror, like what I would say to him. It's a little corny, but
Yeah.
but it's still
Still,
interesting
he
and
was
still
there,
good. Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm. And so they developed this new story of a penguin deceiving a captured polar bear into performing in shows, and a schooner aboard it. Sorry. The new story involved a king penguin deceiving a captured polar bear into performing in shows aboard a schooner, causing the unsatisfied bear to place a bottle that would reach the mice. So that's where it was at this point. It was set in the Arctic at a certain point, and which is just fascinating. And I guess that was abandoned because they felt like it was too hard to animate the Arctic, the colors and everything, and which is interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
These
just the
all these
art.
all these story iterations,
I know.
I wonder whoever wrote this article, like I wonder where they got, I mean, probably maybe just through
Uh-huh.
interviews and stuff, through some of these
Yeah.
artists or whatever, but the history is so interesting. And it continues. It continues. I
Hmm.
don't mean to interrupt you, Rachel. Thanks for
Yeah,
this.
no, it's true. The Arctic setting was too stark a background for the animators. So they brought on in 1977, they hired 25 new artists. This was an initiative set by Ron Miller, and they that includes Glenn Keane, Ron Clements, and Andy Gaskill.
Yeah.
And then they worked with the Nine Old Men in the this for this movie with Mark Davis and Milt Kahl and Wolfgang Reitherman, obviously, and so it's really interesting. And I don't know if you agree, but I think Ron Miller is underappreciated for his work as the CEO.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways he gets a bad rap. I mean, who could have taken on that role after Walt Disney's passing, you know?
Hmm.
And being his son-in-law and whatnot. But I think I think he was forward-looking, and I agree with you. I think he was trying.
He took risks doing something like A Watcher in the Woods and
Yeah,
something with Wicked This Way Comes. Doing, I
the
mean,
black hole,
yeah, yeah, and I
yeah,
appreciate that he took risks and he tried. He was willing to try different things, and it seemed like he was pretty good at like nurturing new talent. You think about some of the people, Ron and John, Don Bluth, somebody like a Tim Burton, a John Lasseter, a Brad Bird, like during this kind of, a lot of those people kind of got their start in those early doing the Fox and the Hound and some of those other early projects.
yeah. Really good point, Rage.
Hey, this is David from the Piecing It Together podcast, a podcast about movies and the movies that inspire them. For over 4 years, each week, a guest and I take a look at a new movie through the lens of what other movies we think were either an influence or connect in some other way. It's a fun, unique way to discuss films that leads to a great list of other movies to check out that either explore the same themes and ideas or maybe utilize similar filmmaking techniques. Including special episodes in our side series that twist the format, we've done over 200 episodes, so there's bound to be one on a film you've been thinking about and want to dig deeper into. So check us out on all the major podcasting apps and at piecingpod.com.
Wolfgang Reitherman decided not to go with Fred Lucky's version. He said, it's too complicated. I want a simple story. A little girl gets kidnapped and the mice try to get her back, period. And so then they had, I guess they held on for a long time. They had Louis the Bear as a character, which is interesting. And then Gus the Lion and Red Fox. And this was before they even developed, before they even had a villain. They had these two anthropomorphic.
Well, and Red Fox is the name, is the actor who was going to voice the lion, right?
Yeah.
Gus the Lion, I guess, is the name who they were. And Louis Prima, who, was a popular musician at the time and also had a role in the Jungle Book, if I'm not mistaken. He's King Louis in the Jungle Book. He was the polar bear. Anyway,
yeah.
It's like these plots that they were, all these iterations of this story.
Yeah, I guess at one point they were going to have a leader, a singing bullfrog voiced by Phil Harris that was going to be in the film at one point.
Yeah, this Wikipedia article, like, what the what?
That a pigeon was originally proposed to serve as transportation for Bernard and Bianca until Johnston remembered a True Life Adventures episode that featured albatrosses and their clumsy takeoffs and landings.
Yeah.
He then suggested the ungainly bird instead. Which is hilarious.
Which is hilarious, and it totally makes sense. It's almost like they rotoscoped, some of those landings with the bird. But to me, the only thing that I had that was familiar to me, Rachel, was from this Wikipedia article, was the fact that they were looking at reviving Cruella de Vil as the villainess.
Yes.
For this, for the Rescuers movie, which I thought was really interesting. Like, oh my goodness, that would have been something,
Which, I mean, there are definitely spots where it's very obvious that she's inspired by Cruella de Vil, especially driving.
I was going to say, that's when they just reuse that animation with the car that or she went to the same driving school or lack thereof. But yeah.
Yeah, but it says that they started out thinking of originally they were going to have be a villainess. A baroness. This is that, and that I guess that's it says the villainess and her motive to steal a diamond was adapted from the Diamond Duchess in Miss Bianca. That's the
Miss Bianca book. Okay.
The setting was then changed to the bayous found in southern United States. By 1973, the villainess was named the Grand Duchess, with Phyllis Diller cast in the role. A month later, conceptual artist Ken Anderson began depicting Cruella de Vil, the villainess from 101 Dalmatians, as the main antagonist. Anderson had drawn several sketches of Cruella de Vil sporting alligator leather chic attire and sunglasses. One sketch depicting her wearing bell-bottom pants and platform shoes.
I'm just picturing, like, I want to see art. I wish we could go to the,
that would be
the
so
animation
cool.
research library. They could show us some of this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, man. And it says, however, several staff members, such as animator Ollie Johnson, stated it felt wrong to attempt a sequel for the character. Furthermore, Matheson explained that Mick Call did not want to animate Cruella de Vil. That Milt, of course, was very strong against that. Oh no, we're not. We're going to have a new character. I'm not going to do Cruella, Madison recalled, because he felt that Mark Davis had animated Cruella beautifully. He was not going to go and take his character, which is really interesting. That we don't think. I think when you're watching the movies, people that aren't animation junkies don't even think about the fact that there's an animator that animates that individual character.
Yeah.
That would be that they would see that kind of ownership for Mark Davis of that character.
Yeah,
You
exactly. And so I just love that background. But the next part of the story, Rachel, is what cracks me up with Milt Call. How he based the character on his then wife, who soon became his ex-wife.
Yeah, that's not surprising. If Medusa is based on your wife, that's not.
I don't think they had a lot of warm feelings for each other at the time.
Yes,
it's pretty horrible.
And the names I was looking for earlier, it's Ollie Johnson, Milt Call, and Frank Thomas. This was the last project that the three of them worked on together.
All three of them worked
on
the
Nine Old Men. Yeah.
Because I think Ollie Johnson and Frank Thomas ultimately worked on The Fox and the Hound, didn't they? Wasn't that
I think so.
Like their last, like, then they retired. That was like their
It just says it would also mark the last joint effort by Milt Call, Ollie Johnson, and Frank Thomas, and the first film by Don Bluth, who had worked on as a directing animator instead of an assistant animator.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's just so fascinating, because I think sometimes we look at something like The Emperor's New Groove and we think like that was a total mess, and it was, but it's really not. Let me look at the number of iterations that this had.
Yeah.
Over so many years. You look at, practically, certainly Frozen, of course. Tangled had huge changes. Completely rewrites. Beauty and the Beast.
Humongous changes.
Yeah. So it's really not that much of an anomaly. I think the thing with Emperor's New Groove is that it seemingly like completely changed tone, which is maybe a little bit unusual.
Yeah.
But they were going to have him be Richard the Lion at one point with this. So I don't know.
Right.
Even true. And they also, with Emperor's New Groove, they had a documentary being made, which I think makes a big difference.
Yeah. Good point.
But I think it's just these movies, these animated films take so long to make. Even today, they still take so long.
They are in development and, story stuff is going on. For so long. It's a really interesting process.
Yeah. I remember when I talked to Kirk DeMecco about Ruby Gillman.
Yeah.
And his other films that he's worked on, The Croods and things like that, and Vivo, which we talked about not too long ago, and people said, "Oh, you were just copying Turning Red." And he's like, "We had this, years before. It was all in process years before. Like the idea that it was just some kind of copy it's ridiculous. Obviously it's just one of those random weird things
where there's some real similarities.
It's just in the zeitgeist at the moment for whatever reason. And we've seen that many times, but I think that I still think that we do get too much Medusa. I do think that is a problem with the movie. And when you watch 101 Dalmatians, one of the most impressive things about it is just how little of Cruella you actually get. She is not in the movie that much. Most of the time, the puppies are with Jasper and
Yeah,
Horace.
with Jasper and Horace. And so it's her kind
And
of her influence, right? I mean, it's like
yeah,
the aura of Cruella de Vil is there, but not the character itself. Yeah.
yeah, and so she can come in and really make an impact and really be chilling. And I do think with Medusa, we just get too much of her, and she's too outright mean to Penny. And I mean, again, Cruella is not with the puppies hardly at all. And so I don't know. I just think that I think she's too mean. Like and I know she's a villain, she's supposed to be mean. I get that, but I don't know. I just think they overdo it. It's too much, in my opinion. And
Yeah, I say,
and
I respectfully disagree, but I understand what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
when they're like, who would want to adopt you and stuff like that, and then sending her down to the cave and everything, and I just think that maybe they should have had Penny be with what's his name, that guy more, the
Snoops.
Snoops more. That would have might been more palatable, I think. And then Medusa come in and make an impact, would have been maybe more my choice. I do think that Penny's a little she's a little much sometimes too. But she is sweet, and and there are some unique things like the fact that they show Penny praying. I can't think of hardly any other Disney
Yeah,
films.
Snow White praise.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Snow White.
But I'm with you. It's a very unusual
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think that the relationship between Bianca and Bernard is very sweet and very fun and like a classic kind of rom-com perspective. So I do like that part between the two of them because she's sort of the princess and he's the every man that's kind of bumbling, and everything turns out perfectly even though even though he's freaking out. He's got the anxiety attack, and that's fun,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I also think that they do a pretty good job of sort of building the mystery and making like if you were going to sort of introduce your kids to the idea of a mystery, I think this and The Great Mouse Detective would be a pretty good way to introduce them to the beats of like getting the clues and talking to Rufus and all of that kind of thing that they have to do is there.
Yeah, I those are such good points, Rachel. And just as a counterpoint, you're nice to let me give me a second
Yeah.
to say this. I find that, you know, the stuff with Medusa and then also just the perilous situation that Penny is in is really what gives the movie its drama.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I could see how it would be terrifying as a child to see this. I was just a tick older when I saw it. So
Yeah.
I was more, even though I'm such a wuss, it was still though more exciting for me than it was um, like nightmare inducing,
Mm-hmm.
like super scary. But and that Penny is so ultimately sympathetic. I think that's what also um like pulls the heartstrings for me, So
Mm-hmm.
it's just, just I guess this is the way it works. The stuff that you didn't like is the stuff that made it work,
Mm-hmm.
made it work for me.
And it worked better for me than it had in the past. So we're making progress here, right?
Well, no, see, no need. I mean, that's what makes the world go around, is have opposing views,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But it is definitely very intense when she has to go down in that cave.
That's a intense scene, that
Mm-hmm.
scary
Very scary.
hole in the ground, where the water comes up, and it was an interesting thing I noticed on this Wikipedia page under the picture of Penny, uh, as she's got that sword as she's trying to pry open the skull where the devil's eye
Mm-hmm.
is located
Mm-hmm.
in. How it says that the filmmakers carefully designed every shot of the scene to raise the tension, and I thought that they were successful.
Yeah,
Because that
they do.
there's some really serious tension, particularly in that sequence, more so than in the
Mm-hmm.
other ones where she's like trying to run away.
Yeah.
Those are those are a little intense, but almost more um,
Mhm.
kind of comic comedic in a way, you know. I mean, just with the alligators and all this
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a little bit silly. One thing
Yeah.
I think that the sequel does a little bit better because Penny is surrounded in that pen with the other inmates, the other animals. Um, I mean the not Penny, Cody.
Cody and
Cody,
yeah.
because Cody is surrounded, and so it's more. I don't know. To me, it's just a little bit more palatable. And there's like a little bit of humor, and it's just a little like tonally, I think a little bit better. But yeah, I can see the alternative point. Like it's definitely less of a mystery though. That second one,
Right.
there's less like clues and less like
Right. Where this is, you're just trying to figure out what's, we kind of we're getting pieces of that, and then when we finally, find out about this
yeah.
diamond, the diamond, and all, yeah, all this. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like really putting the clues together where in Rescuers Down Under, they really don't. It's really not like that. They're not like hearing from Rufus. They're not like it's just
That's true. It's more
there's
just like a
difference.
procedural, right? I mean, or like they're just
Yeah, it really. Yeah,
trying to get to the place to get Cody, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're more just trying to get there, and I do think that even Rude is a lot of fun. It's a little
I
dragonfly.
love Even Road, and the sound effects are so great with him. It was interesting to read in the Wikipedia article, that they brought in Jimmy McDonald, who is just the classic sound guy, for the
Hmm.
Disney Studios for decades to work on the film, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. And then they have Luke and Ellie Mae. And it's kind of funny because this was the era of Disney films where they loved characters getting drunk. That was like the big thing.
I know, right?
I feel like you almost never see that anymore.
Oh
Characters
no,
getting
yeah,
sloshed,
you
but
never
now
see it.
this time it was practically every movie there was a character.
Yeah.
Sleeping Beauty and
And that moonshine too. I love
Dumbo and
what it does to their eyes.
yeah, and yeah, and the what's the one in Make Mine Music with the where they get all the Hatfields and McCoys,
Oh, the Hatfield some
on yeah.
boys. Yeah.
There's tons. They just love getting characters drunk.
Yeah.
And that's what they do with this guy. He's got this super strong moonshine. And and you would think that they could make or even they could make a nice cocktail down in
I know,
Disneyland
right?
with it. Speaking of Disneyland, I didn't know this. I don't know if you knew this, but in this research, I found out that I guess Bernard and Bianca are going to be part of the new Tiana's
Yeah, I was like,
uh
who got that scoop? You know,
Tiana's
Donna's
Bayou
Bayou
Adventure.
Adventure. They're, if they're gonna just have, I just wonder if it's gonna be like a little Easter egg or something. That Bernard and Bianca are gonna be hanging out in one of those
Yeah,
scenes there
I
in the
know. That would
bayou.
be fun. It says that in 2024, both characters are set to appear as figures in the upcoming Tiana's Bayou Adventure ride based on the 2009 film Princess and the Frog in Critter Country at Disneyland and Frontierland in Disney World. So that's going to be fun to
I
see.
hope that's true.
Yeah.
Wherever they document,
Uh-huh.
got that scoop. I hope it's true.
Like it would be really fun if it was more than just Bernard and Bianca, but if there was even Druid and some of the other
Some
characters.
of those cute little critters from the bayou. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's from the Disney Parks blog. On
Well, yeah.
that's the reference
That's
that
the
they have.
reference, and I just
Hmm.
if that's something that they revealed in there, how cool.
Because had you heard that? I hadn't heard that. People on
No,
Twitter were like, we all knew that. I'm like, okay,
I
sorry.
didn't know. I didn't know that. So clearly, I'm out of it.
Me too. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on the parks.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Anyway, but the once they get past, most of my issues with the movie kind of stop with the cave. Once it gets, because it clips along pretty well after that, and the chasing and the races and the like basically water skiing that kind of going.
Yeah.
And they end up, in the end, Medusa gets captured and Penny gets saved, and so I think it's really just that, like, Medusa on the boat and then through to the cave. That's not for me.
Mhm.
But I did really appreciate like I said, the mystery leading up to it and the clues, and also I think Orville is a nice comic relief.
Orville is so great, and I love the animation with Orville.
Mm-hmm.
I love the whole takeoff from the top of the building where they are in New York City, and uh flying. That whole flying sequence, I think, is delightful.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it really is a lot of fun. And I guess they got Jim Jordan out of retirement. And so that he was 80 years old and he is in retirement and had not performed since the death of his wife and comic partner in 1961. It would serve as Jordan's last public performance. So, and then of course they had John Candy in the sequel.
yeah, and
And
I think the music is a real standout in this movie too, that I was reminded of
mhm.
seeing it again at the wonderful Maven Cinemas. I think that the background music is terrific, but
Mm.
I also like the songs, and the songs are kind of like, um, I guess, like Tarzan or something in a way, right? They have just the one singer for the
Oh,
most part,
right.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's not, the characters aren't singing. It's part of the song is part of the narrative.
Yeah, it says that that it was a soundtrack, so it had various artists involved, and Sammy Fain was first hired as a lyricist and wrote the two original songs, Swamp Volunteers March and the Rescue Aid Society. Meanwhile, the filmmakers had listened to an unproduced musical composed by the songwriting team of Carol Connors and Anne Robbins. Both women had first met each other in 1973 on a double date. Before then, Connors had composed and sang successful songs such as To Know Him Is to Love Him and Hey Little Cobra with the teddy bears. Meanwhile, Robbins worked as a personal secretary to actors George Kennedy and Ava Gabor. So the two of them worked on it they composed Tomorrow is Another Day to accompany the scene, and The Journey to play along the
Yeah,
opening
with the opening
titles, which
credit.
I
Yeah,
do love those opening
yeah,
titles.
I do
Uh,
too. The art and everything
yeah.
is really, yeah, really great.
It was artist Mel Shaw was illustrated the pastel sketches to accompany the music.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then so then Sammy Fain wrote Someone's Waiting for You. And so it
I
says,
love that.
yeah.
That always makes me tear up a little bit.
and that says and then they had Shelby Flint who performed the songs. So she did The Journey, Tomorrow's Another Day, Someone's Waiting for You, and then I think they were nominated for Best Original Song. So they were nominated for Someone's Waiting for You.
Okay.
Yeah, Sammy Fain, Carol Connors, and Anne Robbins.
Okay.
And the I've never heard of this. You Light Up My Life by Joseph Brooks.
Debbie. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that song. It was
the movie's called You Light Up My Life, I guess, and the song is You Light Up My Life.
And it was sung, if I'm not mistaken, by a singer named Debbie Boone.
Oh yeah,
who's
yes, it was
Pat Boone's daughter. Yeah,
it's a cover by Debbie Boone, the daughter of Pat Boone.
Okay. Yeah.
I tell you, interesting. This I'll probably cut this out, but it's very interesting. That I don't know if you saw that there was this documentary about Little Richard. And
yeah.
And
I don't know anything about it other than it exists.
Yeah, and it was fascinating. And the number of his songs that then got misappropriated by white artists, like even Tutti Frutti that we think of with him, that was a big hit by Pat Boone, and they have him on there on the documentary talking about it and trying to kind of defend it, and that Little Richard got almost no compensation for any of that, for songs being used. It was very interesting and sad. You felt,
yeah.
And I guess that he was pretty bitter by the time in the latter part of his life. He was pretty bitter and was like, well, yeah,
yes,
if you've been treated this way, it's understandable. Anyway, it was pretty interesting documentary. But anyway, so yeah, the music, it's very 70s. It's very Carpenter.
It's totally 70s. Yeah.
It feels like it could just as well be Karen Carpenter, I think, singing it.
Oh yeah, I think she's very much from the school of Karen Carpenter.
Yeah, or like a Captain and Tennille. I think that too.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's got that, and there is also the sort of scandal, I guess,
which I had forgotten about. Like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes. So in 1999, 3 days after the film's second release on home video, the Walt Disney Company announced a recall of about 3.4 million copies of the videotapes because there was a blurry image of a topless woman in the background scene. The image appears twice in non-consecutive frames during the scene in which Miss Bianca and Bernard are flying on Orville's
scene
back.
I just called that I'm just, I
mean, I was looking at the Maven. I didn't see it. Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I think that the print that that they got from Disney it's been pulled, because it was a lovely digital print. It
was, yeah.
But they show at the Maven, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty blurry anyway. But I thought, if I was going to see it, you probably would see it on the big screen. But it says that the two images could not be seen in ordinary viewing because the film runs too fast at 24 frames per second.
Yeah, you'd have to have as I recall, you'd have to have the home video that you could pause, right? To get the actual spot. But yeah.
Yeah, the Disney spokesman said that the images in The Rescuers were placed in the film during post-production, but she declined to say what they were or who placed them. The company said the aim of the recall was to keep its promise to families that they can trust and rely on the Disney brand to provide the best in family entertainment.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the movie, and for a long time, this was the only Disney movie to have a sequel, unless you consider anthology package films.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was such an unusual move when Disney announced that under the Michael Eisner management, to do that, and I think we've talked about it. The Rescuers Down Under is I think we both can agree that it's really a good film. And I think,
Yeah.
so I recall you and our buddy Darren, uh, like it much more than the original, right? I think
Yes,
that
I
was
do. I do like it much more. I think it's a little bit less mean-spirited. It's a little bit more. Um, and even though McLeach, he's terrible, but you just get less of him. He's in the movie less, so it's more palatable to me, and it just has more humor. It's funnier. But this is it got a bump. So you can be happy about
we
that.
can
It got a bump.
we can thank Maven, and then also the more recent output
Yeah.
from Walt Disney Animation Studios,
Yes.
which has not been great.
So congratulations, the rescuers. You have gotten a bump.
And it's still right up there for me. Nothing was changed other than just the joy of getting to see it again.
Yeah.
Uh, and Maven is saying that they might bring the Rescuers Down Under. I think after
Yeah, he was saying that I guess that one was a little bit difficult for some reason, and that
yeah,
it's surprising the ones that they get pushed back on.
yeah.
And
When
I
we were
guess it
talking to
can
them, I think after
depend.
Beauty and the Beast that we
Yeah,
got to see together. Yeah.
because I guess it just depends on if there's any kind of other re-releases or what's going on or new. They could be having like a new version on Disney Plus, or we just things like weird things like that we didn't even think of could impact and maybe who knows if they're going to be on Tiana's Bayou, maybe they will some kind of
It's so
re-release or
crazy.
something.
I'm gonna go find that blog post out on the Disney Parks blog. Really?
Yeah.
Uh,
uh, so that should be fun. So there we go. And I guess they were saying that the alligators in this, some of my friends on Twitter were saying the alligators were sort of inspiration for the alligator in Princess and the Frog. So
oh,
maybe that's
okay.
part of it.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe
Maybe they'll
using
be
that
hanging out with
Bernard and Bianca.
yeah. Twitter, and I said, "What do we think of the Rescuers?" And Becky says, "I loved it as a kid. My children didn't like it at all, so they on that. But
Yeah,
they loved Rescuers Down Under, and I mean I could. They are really different. I mean Rescuers Down Under is just a lot sillier.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot sillier. Tamara Kent says, I adored it. I thought that the sequel is awesome too. And then Chauncey Tell says, good movie. Down Under is superior. So you'll keep fighting the fight for the rescuers.
Well, I'm just so grateful to Maven Cinemas for showing it on the big screen. That was such
Yeah,
a gift.
it was really fun.
And you know, I love this movie. One just final note, I thought it was very interesting, and I'm not trying to prove my point, Rachel, or anything. I didn't realize though that it had quite a positive critical
Yeah, and Leonard
reception.
Maltin's a big fan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not every critic just loved it, but
Yeah, it's true.
that was interesting. And then I still hold to the fact that both Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson stated on their joint website that the
Mm-hmm.
Rescuers had been their return to a film with heart, and they considered it their best film
Oh,
without Walt Disney. And
that's good.
and I agree. I
Uh-huh.
mean, I enjoy the Aristocats, and I think Robin Hood's a delight, and all the
Mm-hmm.
other ones, but
Yeah.
I just felt like with the Rescuers that movie really
Mm-hmm.
had
Mm-hmm.
heart
Yeah.
in my estimation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I also forgot to mention that I met Eva Gabor.
Oh, that's right.
I
You told me
met
this story. I love
when the new movie was coming out, I was in Anaheim for my cousin. It was my special 10-year trip that my grandma would take us on. It was just before my 10th birthday, was the next month. and my cousin was in this choir that was performing all around, so that was kind of roped into my 10-year trip. And it's the same trip that I saw Home Alone with my grandparents.
Oh my
And
goodness.
very memorable. And we
Wow.
went all over. We went to Knott's Berry Farm. We went to, of course, Disneyland. My cousin was performing in these choirs, and we went to the Beverly Hills Hilton, hotel, huge hotel, and she performed there. And I was there, and Ava Gabor steps out of the elevator. Like, and I remember I got to shake her hand, and this is Miss Gabor.
Oh my
For Ava Gabor.
goodness. I
So it's
love
very exciting.
that.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
So
What
there
a
we
trip.
go. Yeah, it was a great trip.
Wow.
So let us know what you think of The Rescuers. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. You can find us at Disney Talking on Twitter. And Stanford, where can people find you?
I have a movie podcast and a website at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Me and Darren just did a preview of 2024 animation.
I know. I'm so excited to hear it.
A lot of fun. So check that out. And also check out the Hallmarkies podcast. Got lots of exciting stuff. They're doing Jane Austen month over in the Hallmark channel. So it's pretty fun. And let's take a look at that. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us out right now, because there was this thing there was this new update to the iPhones that like ruined everybody's subscriptions for podcasts, and it lowered like across the board everybody's numbers. It took a hit this month. And so if you like a podcast, please put in your reviews and scores, because we really need it right now. Please help your struggling podcast. And I would be very grateful. And also, if you are listening on if you're listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate that. And you can see our playlist of all of our Talking Disney episodes. And it's pretty fun. And check out our Patreon group. That's a lot of fun. And the merch store, where you can get hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. And I'm an animation girl. You can get that. So take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.